I can't even talk today. Hey guys, it's Scott from WFLBC.com, and I'm coming to you once again from my beautiful home studio, aka my garage. Today I want to talk about whether it's worth upgrading from the Fujifilm X-T10, which is my current main camera for stills photography, to the new and improved X-T20. Let's start with a side-by-side comparison. I'm going to move over to the bench here and go over the cameras side by side and break down the differences between the two. Okay, so here we have the two cameras, the X-T10 and the X-T20. I've had this camera for about 2 years. It has the lower end kit lens on it, the XC kit lens, which is a 16 to 50 f 3.5 to 5.6. It's a slow lens, but it has OIS. You know what? It's not as bad as everybody says it is, but it's definitely not the best lens in the Fujifilm lineup by any stretch of the imagination. The X-T20 that I got from Fujifilm Canada comes with, the XF 18 to 55 f 2.8 to 4, so it's slightly more telephoto versus 16 to 50. It's a very minimal difference, but it is quite a bit faster. It does have OIS. Neither of them are weather sealed, which is, I mean, if you're shooting with the X-T10 and the X-T20, it doesn't really matter because they're not weather sealed either. A couple of big differences, sort of right off the bat. If you look at the top of the camera, you'll notice on the X-T10 it has a video record button here, and on the X-T20 there's a function button in its place. That's because on the command dial you've got one extra spot on the X-T20, and that is a dedicated video function, so you can actually record using the shutter button, which I don't need to tell you guys is awesome. The issue I have with that is on the back of the camera, if you look down at the bottom, the X-T10 has the function button here, whereas the X-T20 has no button there. Now, I do like that they've moved it to the top and gotten rid of the video record button, but I do wish that they would have left a button there so you could program it for something else. Whatever you want, just a programmable button. I'm a big fan of buttons. The more buttons you can have to do what you want them to do, the better. I think that, yeah, they should have left that button there, but I will begrudgingly accept the loss of that button because you can now record video with the shutter, which is great. I'm gonna take this case off of this X-T10 because it's not sort of giving an accurate representation of what this thing looks like. You can see the thumb grip on both of them is pretty much identical. You can see their top plates are, I'm having a hard time lining that up, basically the same. You've got your shutter speed dial, your exposure comp dial, your function dial, hot shoe, just that change in the button I mentioned earlier. The front of the camera is the same. You've got your focus mode here. You've got your AF assist lamp in the same spot, and this programmable dial here, which is also a button. It's the same. Everything's the same. The bottom plate is the same. It still has the battery door in the same place. It takes the same batteries. Essentially, there's not a ton of difference physically in the cameras apart from a couple of little button changes. Obviously these are different colored cameras, which doesn't matter. I prefer the all black, but that's just me. The X-T10 has a 16 megapixel X-Trans sensor, whereas the X-T20 has a 24 megapixel X-Trans sensor. To be honest, the extra resolution doesn't really do a ton for me photo-wise, I'm not posting in any huge formats, so yeah, that part's not gonna win me over or make me recommend it. Although, I mean, it is definitely a positive. One thing I will say, and I say this every video, these Fujifilm lens caps, these are garbage. Get rid of them, they're junk. Get yourself like a cheap camera store lens cap. They stay on so much better. Fujifilm, this thing is a piece of junk. I say this every time you guys send me a camera. I love you guys to death. Your lens caps are the worst lens caps in the world. In real world terms, these two cameras aren't as far apart as the specs would lead you to believe. The X-T10 has a lot less autofocus points, it has less resolution, it has an older processor, it has lower resolution video, there's no 4K. That being said, when you're actually out shooting with the X-T10, there's not a lot of difference between being on the streets or shooting wildlife or shooting a sporting event between the two cameras. The 77 autofocus points in this guy are easily enough to get you through most scenarios that the average weekend warrior is ever going to run across. Now, the X-T20 is a great starting point if you want to get into the X series. The X-T10, I believe, is now officially discontinued. But if you own an X-T10, is it worth upgrading to the X-T20? I started out, when I was making this video, convinced that I was going to be buying a Fujifilm X-T20. And now that I've spent some time shooting with it, comparing between the two, I'm not so convinced that it is worth the upgrade for me. And I'll tell you why. And it's not what you think. It's a better camera. It is. It's a better camera, higher resolution, faster processor, more frames per second, higher resolution. I think I said that already. A couple of different filters. The Acros filter, which the X-T10 doesn't have, is beautiful on the X-T20. The video functionality is nothing short of stunning. The video autofocus is a lot better than the X-T10. None of those things really matter to me at this point because I don't shoot video with my Fujifilm cameras, and there's a really simple reason for that. I've covered this before in my XA3 review and in various rants on my other social media channels. There is no front-facing screen on a Fujifilm X series camera where there is also a microphone input. Now the X-T20, it has a microphone input, and you can use an HDMI monitor. It will support a live view HDMI monitor. So you can go out and buy an HDMI monitor and have a front-facing screen, or you can use the Fujifilm camera app. It works as a monitor. You can use it to start recording video. Everything works. The microphone turns on, which was a big thing with the X-T10. You could do all that stuff with the X-T10, but the microphone didn't turn on if it was external with the app. They fixed that. But if you want to shoot videos like this, like the one I'm shooting right now, it's a compromise. Everything's a compromise where you have to add something to the camera to be able to shoot it. I'm shooting this video on like a $400 Panasonic Lumix FZ200. It doesn't do 4K. It's a 12 megapixel f/.3 or f/.7 inch sensor. It's cheap and it's not a great camera. It's a really decent video camera, and for the money, it comes with everything I need. A front-facing screen, a mic input, dedicated video modes. I can start taking video with a shutter button. I don't want to use two camera systems, and right now, that's what I have to do. So in order for me to switch my video shooting setup to a Fujifilm camera full-time, I need a camera with a front-facing screen and a mic input. The XA3 has a front-facing screen, no mic input. And there was a bunch of other issues with that video-wise as well. If you want to know what those were, you can look at my XA3 for vlogging video. This X-T20, it's right here, takes great video. The exposure corrects properly. The autofocus, like I said, is very decent. It just doesn't have that front-facing screen, and I desperately need that for the videos that I shoot. Now, if you don't shoot those kind of videos, if you're documentary type video shooter, or you're videoing sporting events or weddings or anything like that, where you don't need to be holding the camera like this, then that's fine. This will work great, and quite frankly, it's an excellent choice and takes beautiful, beautiful 4K video. It is quite stunning. The 24 frames per second Cinema 4K, absolutely gorgeous. But if you're not doing that, if you're filming yourself, if you're vlogging, you will hate this camera. You really will. Now, I'm not giving this camera the thumbs down. I think as a stills camera, it's a fantastic camera, and as a video camera, it's a fantastic camera. It's just not right for me and for what I need it for to make that leap to move from my X-T10 to the X-T20. Maybe the X-T30 or whatever they're going to call it will have a flip out screen and a microphone input. I hope it's not an up flipping screen or a down flipping screen. It needs to flip out to the side. Fujifilm, if you're listening, vloggers are dying to use your cameras, to use your film simulations and video to make cinematic looking 4K video. To close out, should you upgrade from the X-T10 to the X-T20? My answer is no. But if you are just entering the Fujifilm ecosystem, the X series world, the X-T20 is a hell of a good place to start. Don't bother with the XA3 unless you take a lot of selfies. Then that camera is definitely for you. The X-T20 is a fantastic camera. It's getting a thumbs up as a camera, even though I'm not switching. That's it, you guys. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, hit subscribe, hit the like button because it helps out the channel a lot, and I will see you in the next video.